Chosen one, something in you already knows. Not the part that has been burned before, not the part that learned to protect itself, not the careful, measured, self-preserving part that has served you faithfully through every disappointment. That part does not know yet. That part is still watching. But deeper than that, the part of you that never fully stopped believing, even when you stopped saying it out loud, that part already knows. Something is changing. Something is moving, and you felt it before this message reached you. You are here because that knowing needed a voice. So here is the voice. The wait is over. Not the kind of over that asks you to throw away the wisdom you earned in the silence. The kind of over that honors it. The kind of over that says the very fact that you learned to protect your heart, that you refused to settle, that you chose the ache of waiting over the relief of wrong was not damage, it was discernment. And discernment, chosen one, is the rarest preparation. A powerful soulmate is in motion toward your life. Not toward someone who desperately needs to not be alone. Toward someone who chose wholeness when loneliness was the easier option. Toward someone whose stillness became a kind of gravity. Toward you. You did not just survive this season. You became someone who can hold what is coming. And what is coming, the depth, the recognition, the alignment your spirit has been reaching toward it was never going to arrive before you were this. Stay, because what I am about to show you is the reason the waiting made sense all along. Before we go any further, if you are around other people right now, I want you to find a quiet moment for yourself. Not because this is fragile, because this is specific. What I am about to say is not a general message. It was placed in front of you at this exact point in your life for a reason that will become clear before this ends. Take a real breath. Let yourself arrive here. What I want to cover with you today is something I have thought carefully about how to say, because it is not just encouragement, it is architecture. The structure of what the waiting actually built inside you. The science behind why your frequency is shifting right now. A powerful and practical framework for what to do from this moment forward. And before this ends, I am going to speak something over your life that I believe will stay with you long after you leave this space. If any part of you has ever felt like love was passing you by, stay until the end. What I am going to show you will change how you see every single season you have walked through. It will not take long, but it will matter. Now, let me show you something about the season you have been living in, because you have been measuring it wrong. You have been looking at the years and counting what you do not have. You have been looking at the people around you, the ones who seem to have found their person, the ones who look settled, the ones whose lives appear to have arrived somewhere yours has not. And somewhere in that comparison, a quiet conclusion formed in you. A conclusion that said, you are behind, you are missing something. Maybe you are just not the kind of person it is meant for. That conclusion was wrong. And I do not say that to comfort you. I say it because the evidence, when you understand what was actually happening, points entirely in the other direction. Every morning you woke up to the same quiet and chose to keep going anyway. Every event you attended alone and carried yourself with dignity. Every time someone asked why you were still single and you had to smile through the real answer. Every night you lay there and made the decision again not to settle for something less, just to end the waiting. That was not failure accumulating. That was formation. The winter was not empty, chosen one. It was full. It has always been full. Most people look at winter and only see what is missing, the leaves, the warmth, the visible growth. But underground, during the coldest part of the year, root systems are expanding, quietly, without announcement, without anyone watching. That is exactly what has been happening in you. And I want to show you 4 specific signs of that underground work. Because I believe you have been experiencing all of them and dismissing every single one as something other than what it really is. The first is this. At some point in this season, your tolerance for certain people and certain environments collapsed. Conversations that used to feel normal started to feel exhausting. Rooms that used to feel fine started to feel suffocating. People you once made effort for started to feel like they were pulling something out of you rather than adding to it. And you probably thought, something is wrong with me. I am becoming closed off. I am becoming difficult. You were not becoming difficult. Your discernment was developing. The ability to sense misalignment, to feel in your body before your mind catches up that something is not right, is one of the most powerful gifts that gets sharpened in the silence. You were not pulling away because you were broken. You were pulling away because you were growing. And what you were growing past could no longer contain you. The second sign, the dreams. If they became more vivid during this season, more specific, more emotionally charged, stranger, and more layered than they used to be, that was not random noise. Your subconscious was doing the work that your waking life was too defended to allow. Some of you had dreams that felt like rehearsals, conversations you have not had yet, places you have not been, people whose faces you could not quite see. That is your spirit practicing for something it already knows is real. The third sign is one most people do not talk about. In the middle of the hardest moments of this season, in the middle of the nights that felt the longest, there were moments of inexplicable peace. Not happiness, not the absence of pain, but a strange, settled, underneath kind of peace that did not make logical sense given the circumstances. You probably dismissed it, told yourself you were just numb, just exhausted, just too tired to feel the full weight of it. You were not numb, you were being held. And in those moments, something in you knew it. The fourth sign, the question. At some point in this season, in a quiet moment, a question surfaced that you did not fully let yourself sit with. It was something like, what if this silence is for a reason I cannot see yet? You pushed it down quickly, because hope has cost you before. Because allowing that question to breathe felt too dangerous. But that question was not wishful thinking. That was prophetic knowing. That was your spirit recognizing, before your mind would allow it, that the waiting was not absence, it was preparation. There is a pattern here, a pattern that stretches across every person who has been held in this kind of season. And one of the most powerful examples of it lives in a story most of us have heard, but rarely understood in full. Joseph. You probably know the broad strokes. A young man with a gift, thrown into a pit by the people closest to him, sold, enslaved, imprisoned, years in places he did not choose, years of silence, years in which every external indicator said, you were wrong about who you are. The dream you had for your life was just a dream. But something was happening in Joseph during those years that Pharaoh's palace would require. His capacity to hold pain without becoming bitter that was forged in the pit. His ability to read patterns and see what others could not, that was developed in the silence. His authority in the room, the kind that cannot be manufactured or performed, that was built in the years no one was watching. When the moment came for him to step into everything he had been prepared for, he did not have to become someone different. He simply revealed who the waiting had made him. Chosen one. The season you have been walking through has been doing the same thing, and here is what I need you to hold before we go any deeper. Most people hear what I have just said and feel better for a day or two. The pain of the weight eases slightly, and then ordinary life moves back in, and the same familiar ache returns, and nothing has fundamentally shifted. That is because understanding what was happening in the season is only the first layer. It answers the question of what was occurring, but it does not yet answer the question that matters most. Why did the powerful connection you have been sensing, the one your spirit has been reaching toward, require this specific level of preparation? What makes this connection different from what came before? And what does the science of how we actually connect at the deepest level tell us about what is moving toward your life right now? That is where we are going next. And what I am about to show you is going to change how you see not just the waiting, but the arrival. The connection you have been sensing, is not ordinary. And to understand why, to really understand it, not just feel temporarily encouraged by the idea of it, you need to understand something about what powerful connections actually require. Because most of us were taught implicitly that love arrives through circumstance. You meet the right person in the right place at the right time. You are attractive enough, available enough, lucky enough. And if it has not happened yet, the logical conclusion is that something in the equation is wrong. The timing is off. The circumstances have not aligned. Or worse, you are the variable that needs to be different. That is not how the deepest connections work. Think about Ruth. If you know the story, you know the broad shape of it. A woman who lost everything, who stayed with someone she had no obligation to stay with, who showed up as a stranger in a foreign field and asked for nothing more than what was left over. She did not present herself. She did not perform. She did not strategically position herself for recognition. She simply showed up as exactly who she was. And what she was, her character, her loyalty, her capacity to remain faithful in a season of loss. That was what Boaz saw, not her presentation, not her circumstance, who she had become through what she had survived. He did not see her desperation. He saw her depth. And that is the distinction that changes everything. Chosen one. Desperation is visible. Depth is visible. And a truly powerful connection, the kind that does not drain you but expands you, that does not need you but chooses you. That kind of connection is not drawn to someone who needs to not be alone. It is drawn to someone who is whole enough to be truly chosen. That is what the wilderness was building in you. Let me name 3 specific things that were being formed in you during this season, because they are exactly what this kind of connection requires. The first is internal availability. Not the willingness to be with someone you have always had that, but something deeper. The ability to be present in a relationship without performing. To let someone see you without immediately managing what they see. Most people come to relationships still in survival mode, still bracing, still editing, still running a quiet background program that says, do not let them see the real version. It might not be enough. The silence you have lived in the forced intimacy with your own company has been dismantling that program, whether it felt like it or not. The second is discernment, which we touched on before, but here it takes on a specific form. The capacity to feel the difference between connection and chemistry, between recognition and familiarity, between someone who sees you and someone who sees a version of you they find convenient. This discernment cannot be taught in a classroom. It can only be developed through the specific experience of sitting still long enough to know the feeling of your own frequency. You know yours now. That is rare. The third is what I would call receptive readiness. Not the readiness to search or pursue, but the readiness to receive, to let something arrive without dismantling it before it fully forms. This is perhaps the hardest thing the wait produces, because the instinct to protect yourself becomes so practiced, so automatic, that it starts running even when protection is no longer what is needed. What has been happening slowly, in the quietest parts of this season, is that the grip has been loosening, not all at once, but enough to receive what is coming. Now I want to give you a framework for recognizing where you are in this process. I call it the readiness protocol. 3 dimensions, not a checklist to complete before love is allowed to arrive, but a direction your life moves in. And the reason I am giving this to you is so you can see clearly, not by guessing, how much of this preparation has already happened in you. The first dimension is what I call internal quiet. Not the absence of noise in your life, but the ability to be in a room with yourself without needing to fill it. Can you sit alone for 10 minutes without reaching for distraction? Not comfortably, necessarily, just honestly. Because the powerful connection coming toward your life will require 2 people who are not running from themselves. If you can be present with yourself, even imperfectly, you are ready in this dimension. The second dimension is emotional honesty. not the complete resolution of past wounds. No one arrives fully healed, but the willingness to acknowledge what is unfinished without letting it define the present. This is different from being over it. It is being honest about it, to yourself, without pretending the past did not happen and without letting the past speak for the future. The third dimension is present expectation, the ability to believe not desperately, not obsessively, but quietly and genuinely that something good is in motion, that the right connection is not a fantasy, that you are the kind of person something powerful is drawn to. If something in you has shifted in this direction, even subtly, even partially, that is the third dimension opening. Here is the honest qualifier. You do not need all three dimensions fully developed before this arrives. You need to be moving in all three directions. And I believe, based on what it took to be watching this right now and still believing, that you are. Now, I want to go somewhere that most people do not expect in a conversation about love and connection, but I am going here because it is where the science meets the spirit in a way I think will genuinely shift something in you. There is a specific brainwave state, a frequency your brain produces that neuroscientists have linked to what they call the genius state. Flow state, the condition in which pattern recognition is heightened, intuition is sharpest, and synchronicities, those moments when exactly the right thing appears at exactly the right time, happen with unusual frequency. It is called gamma, and here is what makes this relevant to everything we are talking about today. Dr. Robert Lake, a neuroscientist with 34 years of research experience, drawing on studies from institutions including MIT, Harvard, and Stanford, identified something he calls the decline effect. This is the measurable, documented drop in gamma wave activity that begins in most people around age 7 and continues across a lifetime. Not because of any individual failure, but because of the way modern life is structured, the education systems, the constant stimulation, the pressure to perform, the environments that reward compliance over intuition. Children operate in gamma naturally. That is why, when you were young, you learned so fast, why ideas came easily, why life had a certain magic to it, a quality of synchronicity and wonder that felt ordinary then and remarkable in memory. That was not imagination, that was gamma, and here is where it connects directly to you, chosen one. The people who feel the loss of that capacity most deeply are the ones who had the most of it. People who were born with naturally stronger gamma people, with unusually deep intuition, with the ability to sense what others miss, with a knowing that others could not explain. Those people feel the decline effect as a specific kind of loss, a gap between who they remember being and who they have become. The distance between I was born for something significant and the muted, heavy, effortful experience of ordinary daily life. That gap, the one you have felt but maybe never been able to name. That is the gamma gap, and it is directly connected to the powerful connection moving toward your life. Because the most aligned, most recognized, most real connections, the ones that feel like your spirit finally exhaling, happen not through strategy or effort, but through frequency. Two people in genuine gamma do not have to perform for each other. They do not have to explain themselves or manage each other's perceptions. They simply recognize. The recognition happens at the level of signal, not strategy. When your gamma is active, when you are in that state of heightened intuition and pattern recognition, you do not just attract differently, you perceive differently. You notice the person who would have walked past you in a lower state. You sense the alignment before the evidence confirms it. You trust the recognition before it has been verified by logic. Dr. Lake spent years trying to find a way to make gamma accessible, not through the biofeedback machines that cost thousands of dollars, not through years of disciplined meditation practice, but through something anyone could use. What he developed is a 7-minute audio track called the Genius Song, a digital audio file designed to be heard through headphones that uses brain entrainment technology to guide your brain back into the gamma frequency. the same frequency you were born with, the same one the modern world suppressed. You simply sit, put on your headphones, close your eyes, and listen. 7 minutes, beginning with the very first session. 18,366 people have used it. And what they consistently describe is not just mental clarity, though that comes. They describe the return of synchronicities, the return of the knowing, the sense that they are back in the stream of something larger than ordinary effort. I am sharing this with you, not as a product recommendation in the conventional sense. I am sharing it because we are talking about frequency today, about alignment, about becoming the person who can receive what is coming. And the most honest application of that science I have encountered is this tool. The investment is $39, available only through the link in the pinned comment and description, not on any other platform. Dr. Robert Lake reduced the price from the original $49 specifically because his mission is to reach the people who genuinely need this recalibration, not to maximize commercial return. Alongside the audio, you receive the Genius Child track for any children in your life, the classic book that inspired the film The Secret, a guided visualization across 4 dimensions of your life, and a practical infographic of the 5 most important habits for building the life you are moving toward. I should also tell you this, because I want you to be protected. There are imitations online. Audio files using the name or the concept without the actual brain entrainment technology. The only way to receive the genuine tool with the full technology, the 4 bonuses, and the unconditional money-back guarantee is through the link in the pinned comment. Do not search for it on Amazon or any other platform. What you will find there will not carry what I am describing to you now. If this resonates with where you are, if recalibrating your frequency feels like the next honest step in this season, the link is waiting in the pinned comment. Investigate only if you feel genuinely drawn. Now let me tell you about someone. I want to tell you about a chosen one who spent 4 years in what she described as the longest winter of her life. Not metaphorically, 4 actual years, without a relationship that held. 2 had ended badly. 1 had broken something in her that took time to even locate, let alone begin to repair. She stopped actively looking, not from defeat, though that was part of it, but because she realized, somewhere in the 2nd year, that she kept choosing the same thing in different packaging, and she did not understand why. So she did the inner work. Not perfectly, she would tell you that herself. There were months where she went backward, months where the loneliness was physically heavy, but she ran something like the frequency audit every few weeks, honestly assessing what and who she was giving her primary energy to, and whether it was aligned with where she was going. She slowly stopped explaining herself to people who were not in her direction. She stopped trying to fit into spaces that required her to be smaller. In the 5th year, she met someone, not through any deliberate effort, at an event she almost did not attend, that a friend had mentioned twice and she had declined twice. She went on a 3rd invitation with no expectation. Within 3 conversations across 2 evenings, she told her closest friend, "I feel like I have been talking to this person for years." He had been through his own equivalent of the winter. He recognized her immediately, not her appearance, not her presentation. Something in how she carried herself, how she did not need the room, how she seemed settled in a way that had nothing to do with circumstance. She did not find him. She became someone he could recognize. That pattern, that specific sequence is not unique to her. It is the pattern, and it holds. The timing of recognition has nothing to do with luck and everything to do with who you are when the moment arrives. You are becoming that person right now. And what we need to talk about next is the specific reason why this connection, the one moving toward you, is not like what came before, and what is standing between you and fully receiving it. Because there is something I need to warn you about, something most people do not see until it is right in front of them. And understanding it now, before the arrival, is what will make all the difference. So let me tell you what makes this connection different. Not different from what you hoped for, different from what came before. Because I think part of what has made the waiting so hard is that you have been using the past as your only reference point. The past is not your reference point anymore. Something is being assembled for you that has no precedent in your history. Here is what I hear being placed on my heart for you right now, and I want you to receive this not as a comfort but as a confirmation. These are the words I believe are meant for this moment. I did not keep you waiting to punish you. I kept you waiting to protect you. The connection coming now is not one you could have held before. You would have made yourself smaller to fit it. Now it will fit you. Let that land, because there is a truth in the original Hebrew language of the scriptures that I want to give you. The word shalom. Most people who know it translate it simply as restore, to return what was taken. But shalom does not mean just restore. It means to be made complete, to be repaid with interest. It carries the image of a court that finds a thief guilty and does not simply order them to return what they stole, but to return it multiplied. Every year you waited is not a year that was taken from you. It is a year that is owed back to you with accumulation. What is coming is not just what you were waiting for. It is the waiting itself, repaid. That is the nature of this arrival. Think again about Boaz. When he encountered Ruth in the field, he did not see a woman performing for recognition. He saw someone whose character had already been observed, not by him, but by others. And through what she had done when no one with any power was looking, he saw the way she had remained faithful in a season of loss. The way she had shown up with integrity when nothing required it. The way she carried herself as someone who had decided, quietly, who she was, and had not negotiated that away, even when everything around her collapsed. He did not see her desperation. He saw her depth, and depth is what recognized depth. Chosen one, the one coming toward your life right now, is not looking for your performance. They are not going to arrive and assess your credentials or evaluate your readiness on the basis of how well you have held yourself together. They are going to encounter who you are. And who you are, the specific person that this season built, is the very thing their spirit is going to recognize. That is not coincidence, and that is not accident, and that is not ordinary. And before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life that I believe will stay with you long after you leave this space. What I am going to declare in the final minutes of this, the specific words I want to place over you that is coming. Stay with me through what I need to show you first. Before we go there, I need you to gently press the like button right now, not for me. So this reaches someone who has been sitting in the same silence you have been sitting in, and who needs to hear what we just covered. Someone who needs to know that their waiting was not a wound. Your like sends this further into the world. That is all I am asking. Now, there is something I need to warn you about. Because knowing a powerful connection is coming is not the same as being able to receive it. And I have watched too many people stand right at the threshold of something real and, without understanding what was happening, turn away from it. Not from fear of pain, from something quieter than that. The first thing that can block the arrival is something I want to name very precisely. It is not fear in the dramatic sense. It is the habit of control, the need to manage how the connection arrives, to already have a picture of what the person will look like, how the encounter will happen, what the progression should feel like. You built that picture out of necessity, out of the completely legitimate need to have some sense of direction when everything felt uncertain. That picture served you, but here is what it costs you now. Control is only possible over things that fit inside your existing imagination. And what is being drawn toward your life does not fit inside your existing imagination. It is larger than what you have been able to picture, and if you hold too tightly to the picture, you will not recognize the real thing when it arrives, because it will not arrive in the shape you expected. The belief underneath the control is this: if I do not manage this, I will be hurt again. That belief makes complete sense. It was formed in real pain. But here is the distinction that changes everything. Control protects the version of you that was hurt. It cannot reach the version of you that has healed. And those two versions cannot occupy the same decision at the same time. The second thing I want to name is subtler, and almost no one talks about it in this context. It is the terror of actually receiving what you asked for. What if they see me the real version, the unedited, unperformed version, and it is not enough? What if I get exactly what I wanted, and then discover that the problem was me all along? What if the intimacy of being truly seen by someone powerful enough to hold it exposes something I have been protecting? I want you to hear this clearly. That fear is not evidence of damage. It is evidence of awareness. People who have crashed into significant relationships without that fear did so because they had no sense of the weight involved. They had not yet learned to take it seriously. Your healthy fear is not a warning sign. It is a sign of wisdom. It is proof that you understand what this connection means. And the people who understand what something means before it arrives are the ones who are prepared to hold it when it does. You went in needing to be chosen, and you are coming out secure enough to choose. You went in needing to be seen, and you are coming out whole enough to be truly seen. You went in afraid of being left, and you are coming out rooted enough to let the wrong ones leave. You went in hoping someone would complete you, and you are coming out complete. And I want to give you something now, not a concept, a permission. You are allowed to want this. You are allowed to believe it is coming without qualifying that belief into near nothingness to protect yourself from disappointment. You are allowed to stop carrying the waiting as if it were a sentence, as if the length of it were evidence of your unworthiness. You are allowed to release the version of yourself that was built for loneliness. That version was strong. It did its job. It does not need to lead anymore. You are allowed to become someone who expects to be loved well, and you do not owe anyone, not the past, not the people who doubted you, not the versions of yourself that settled you. Do not owe any of them an apology for arriving here. Now, I want to give you a practical tool for this moment. I call it the frequency audit. And what I want you to do with it is not complicated, but it requires honesty. In your mind, right now, think about the 3 things that receive the most of your energy on an ordinary day. Not what you wish received your energy, what actually does. The people, the thoughts, the spaces, the conversations. Hold them in your mind for a moment. For each one, ask this question. When I engage with this, do I feel more like myself afterward or less? Do I feel expanded or diminished? Do I feel like I am moving toward the person I am becoming or away from them? You do not need to take a dramatic action based on what you notice. You do not need to end anything today or announce any changes. You simply need to see it honestly, because the connection coming toward your life is moving toward the frequency you are actually running. Not the frequency you intend to run, not the one you perform publicly, but the actual one. Clarity about what is currently occupying that frequency is not a small thing. If something in this audit just surfaced for you, if a specific thing came to mind that you already know is not aligned with where you are going, type the word release in the comments. Not as a ritual, as a decision, a small, private, honest decision that something you have been holding is ready to be let go. Take a breath. The hardest part is behind us now. What is ahead is only light. Because what I am about to show you is the truth that makes everything I have said today snap into place. The revelation that recontextualizes the waiting, the silence, the formation, the fear, all of it. This is the part I have been building toward, and I need you to receive it slowly, because it lands differently when you are not rushing past it. Here is the truth that changes everything. The wait was not the obstacle to the soulmate. The wait was the soulmate. I want to say that again, and I want you to let it move through you rather than past you. The preparation was the connection to yourself, the deep, honest, sometimes painful intimacy with your own interior that the silence forced. And a powerful external soulmate, the kind that is real, not performed, not a temporary solution to a temporary ache, can only arrive and be recognized when that internal connection is already present. Think about everything I have shown you in this message. The winter that was never empty, the formation happening underground while the surface looked still. That was the connection, the discernment developing in you, the capacity to feel misalignment before your mind caught up. That was the connection. The moments of inexplicable peace in the middle of the hardest nights. That was the connection. The question that surfaced, what if this silence is for a reason I cannot see yet? That was the connection. Every sign of growth in this season was the internal soulmate being established. The relationship with your own depth, with your own wholeness, with your own frequency. And a powerful external connection does not come to a person who is still searching for themselves. It comes to a person who has found themselves imperfectly, honestly, but genuinely. And I hear something being placed on my heart for this specific moment, for you right now. This is what I believe the source is saying over your life. What I am sending you is not a completion. It is a confirmation. A confirmation that the becoming you did in the dark was real. That the person you became when no one was watching is the person I am now sending someone to recognize. Receive that. The soulmate was not the arrival, chosen one. You were the arrival. And when the external connection comes, when the person whose depth matches yours steps into your life, they are not bringing you something you lack. They are confirming something that is already there. Let me tell you now who you actually are. Not the version you have been performing. Not the version built for the waiting. Who you actually are. You are a seer. You sense what others miss before they can articulate it. You felt this shift before this message told you it was real. Before the evidence confirmed it, something in you already knew. That is not wishful thinking. That is one of the rarest gifts a person can carry. And the connection coming toward you is going to need that in a partner. Someone who perceives beneath the surface. Someone who trusts their own knowing. You are a wounded healer. What you survived was not wasted. It was transformed. There will come a moment, perhaps many moments, when the person beside you will be carrying something heavy and will not know how to name it. And because you know what it is to carry something unnameable, because you know the specific weight of that, you will be able to sit with them in it without needing to fix it, without flinching. You will be exactly what they need precisely because of what you went through. You are a bridge. You carry the capacity to connect what is separated, to speak in the language of both the wounded and the whole, both the skeptical and the believing. In a relationship, this means you will be the one who does not give up on the other person when they go silent. You will know silence. You will understand it is not the end. You are a spiritual warrior. You did not collapse. In a season specifically designed to test whether you would, you held. Not perfectly, the spiritual warrior never holds perfectly, and that is not the point. The point is faithfulness. Consistent, private, unglamorous faithfulness. You showed up to your own life when staying in bed was always available as an option. That is warrior behavior. And you are a voice. What you carry, the understanding, the depth, the ability to feel the dimensions of something that others skim the surface of it, will one day be medicine. The person coming toward your life will need someone who can give words to things they feel but cannot say. You will be that for them, and they will be that for you. You are committed. You are refined. You are ready. Type the words I am in the comments right now. Not I will be. I am. Because it is already true. Because who you are is not a future state you are working toward. It is the present reality you are stepping into. Now, I want to show you how to recognize this connection when it arrives. Because it will not necessarily announce itself loudly. Powerful things rarely do. I call this the recognition compass. It is simple. It has nothing to do with physical appearance or circumstance, or how many things you have in common on a surface level. It is entirely about how you feel inside the connection. The needle on this compass points in one direction. More yourself. Not more exciting, not more comfortable, not more validated, more yourself. When you are in the presence of the right person, you do not feel the need to edit yourself in real time. You do not run the background program. You do not feel the specific exhaustion that comes from performing for someone. You feel, underneath everything, like you can be unfinished in front of them, and it is not a liability. The second reading on the compass is this: silence is not a problem. Not the awkward silence of two people who have run out of things to perform. The settled silence of two people who do not need to fill every moment. If you can be in silence with someone and feel at ease rather than anxious, that is information. The third reading: you feel larger after time with them, not smaller. Even if the conversation was difficult, even if it challenged you, the right connection expands you. It does not require you to shrink. And here is the honest qualifier: you will not feel all three of these in the first conversation, sometimes not in the first many. This compass is not a checklist to complete immediately. It is a direction to orient toward, and when all three are consistently true, you will know, not because you decided to know, because your spirit will have already confirmed it. I want to do something with you right now before we go into the final part of this message. I want you to do this wherever you are. In your mind, I want you to picture a door. Not a dramatic door, not a symbolic door from a dream you had once. Just a door, simple, solid, directly in front of you. On the other side of that door is the life that is already unfolding, the season you are entering, the connection that is in motion. You cannot see through the door yet, but you can feel the weight of what is behind it. And it is not heavy in the way the waiting was heavy. It is heavy the way something substantial and real, and yours feels heavy, the weight of something that belongs to you. Now I want you to notice something. You are not reaching for the handle. You are not trying to force it open or demand a timeline. You are simply standing in front of it with the knowledge that it will open, that it was always going to open, that every season behind you was the corridor that led here. Let that settle. Let the certainty of it move through you without you having to do anything with it. You do not need to act on it right now. You do not need to figure out the next step. You simply need to let it be true. That is not manufactured hope. That is frequency alignment. And it is already in motion. And if this message found you at exactly the moment it was supposed to, if something across the last 40 minutes confirmed something your spirit already knew but needed to hear, said out loud, I want you to stay connected to this space. What we cover here is not casual encouragement. It is a continuous conversation for those who are navigating exactly this kind of season. If this is your space, stay. Chosen one, I want to close this with you, not quickly, not in the rushing way of content that has somewhere else to be. I want to close this the way it deserves to be closed, with the same honesty and care that I hope has been present in everything we have covered today. Before I speak anything over your life, I want to say something to the source, to the divine intelligence, the deeper force, the God who sees on your behalf. Thank you for the season that looked like nothing and was everything, for the silence that felt like absence and was presence, just of a kind that could not be announced, for the formation that hurt, because formation always costs something, for keeping this person, this specific chosen one listening right now safe in the waiting, for not allowing them to arrive at what was coming before they were ready to hold it. Thank you for the protection that lived inside the delay. And I want to acknowledge something else. You see what has been carried. You see the weight of every night this person lay in the quiet and kept believing anyway. You see the specific faithfulness, not the dramatic kind, not the kind that gets witnessed or acknowledged, the ordinary, private, daily faithfulness of someone who kept choosing not to become bitter. You see every time they could have hardened and chose not to, every time they could have settled and refused, every time the easier option was available and they held out for something real. Not one moment of that was invisible to you. And now, I want us to release some things. I am going to say them, and I want you to let each one go in your spirit as I speak it. Not dramatically, just honestly. I release the timeline I built in my own head, the one that said love was supposed to have arrived already, the one that made the waiting feel like falling behind. I release it. I release the comparison. Every person I measured myself against, every milestone I used to conclude I was behind, I release it. I release the version of love I accepted before because I did not yet know I was allowed to ask for more. I do not carry guilt about it. I simply release it. I release the false ceiling, the quiet belief that I am not the kind of person who receives something powerful. That belief was never true. I release it now. I release the wound from the one who could not hold me. They were not equipped for who I was becoming. I do not need them to apologize. I release what I was still waiting for from them. I release the identity of the one who waits. That season formed me, but it does not define me. I am no longer the person in the waiting. I am the person the waiting produced. I release the old story completely. And I release the fear of being seen, the fear of being too much, the fear of receiving something real and being found unworthy of it. That fear protected me. I honor it, and I release it now. Now, I want to activate something in you. I call forth the full version of who you are. Not the waiting version, not the cautious version, the seer who trusts their knowing, the wounded healer who turned pain into depth, the bridge who speaks what others cannot name, the spiritual warrior who held when everything said, let go, the voice that is medicine for someone who needs exactly what you carry. I call that person forward, all the way forward, into this season, and I call in the powerful, aligned, whole connection that has been prepared for this moment. I call it in not from desperation, not from the ache of loneliness, but from the full standing of someone who is ready to receive it. I call in the recognition, the moment when your spirit meets its match, and both of you will know without being able to explain why you know. Every door that was held closed by my own disbelief, I open it now, and I hear something being placed on my heart for you in this closing. What I believe the source is speaking over you right now. It is already in motion. What I have prepared for you was always in motion. You simply became someone who can finally receive it. You did not lose years. You gained the only things that would make what is coming possible. And what is coming, I kept it for you. It was always for you. Receive that. Now I want to cover this season with something. I cover this rising, this new version of you, stepping forward from the impulse to self-sabotage when things get real. From the old pattern that blew things up at the threshold because the threshold was unfamiliar and felt unsafe. I cover it. I cover what is being built in you from premature exposure. Not everything that is being assembled needs to be announced or explained or shown before it is ready. What is being formed right now is protected. It does not need to be defended. It simply needs to be trusted. And I cover the one who is being drawn toward your life, whoever they are, wherever they are in this moment, in the same peace that is settling over you right now. They are on their own path. They are being prepared too. And the timing, when it arrives, will feel like both of you arriving somewhere you were always meant to reach. Now, I am going to speak something over you, and I want you to receive this not as words from a message, but as words that were placed in this space specifically for you, at this specific threshold of your life. I am called. I am chosen. I am ready. I am not behind. I am on time. I am not overlooked. I am positioned. I am not waiting anymore. I am receiving. The wait is over. The preparation is complete. The arrival is now. And I want you to know right now, in this moment, you are not the only one standing in this declaration. All across the world, chosen ones are in this same place. People who carried the same silence, who held through the same long winter, who refused to settle even when settling would have been so much easier. They are all arriving at this same threshold. You are part of something larger than your individual story. You are part of a generation of people who are refusing to accept less than what they were formed for. Share this with someone you know who has been unusually quiet lately. Someone who seems to be going through a shift they cannot quite explain. You do not need to say anything when you send it. They will know why it found them. Do not say amen yet. I want you to sit in this frequency for just a moment longer. You do not have to do anything. You do not have to feel anything specific. Simply let what was just spoken over your life be true for 60 seconds without arguing with it. Let it be true that you are ready. Let it be true that the connection is in motion. Let it be true that the waiting formed you for something worth being formed for. Let it settle into you. It is done. It is real. It is sealed. And that is not a wish. And that is not a performance. And that is not hope borrowed from someone else's certainty. That is a declaration from someone who has walked through their own long season and knows, with the kind of knowing that only comes from having been through it, that the other side of winter is always spring. And so it is. Amen. Before you go, if what was just spoken over your life landed as true, let your like be your agreement. Let it be your amen without words. And let it send this further into the world, towards someone who is lying awake tonight in the middle of their own long winter, who needs to know that the waiting is not the end of the story. It never was,